Ah.
Okay, guys, we're gonna give everybody just a couple minutes to join, and then we'll get started here. All right, we're gonna get started here. So, checking out the markets, we're gonna head over to let me get some of this stuff. So, first off, ES. Okay, one of the things we have to note going into this week is the fact that we have had two losses or 2 weeks of lost momentum here on the squeeze histogram. So on the weekly time frame. So that's what we're looking at on the weekly. Monthly is just now firing off a squeeze, so I think there's still plenty of upside, and I think that looks similar. We're 3 bars in on SPY here, but really, we can expect probably at least 3 more months of pretty solid upside in the markets, in my opinion. Along with that, I also think that right now we're just taking a breather. If we look at the shorter time frame, like the weekly, you can see that right now we are just consolidating, and we haven't really had anything happen in the past 2 weeks. So if you've been getting chopped up, that's probably a good reason, because it's been 3 weeks of chopping in the same range. Okay. So a lot, well, for me personally, a lot of trades that I've been getting in have been going in profit and then getting stopped out at break even. Besides playing the downside in ES or NQ really. But that's what's been happening a lot of the time. So you have to pay attention to that. One of the things we want to look out for is if we end up breaking here, we end up breaking the low of the high bar, which would be not last week, but the week before. If we break below that, we're going to start to want to pay attention to basically what the market could end up doing and heading back to the downside. So typically what will happen is you'll get these losses of momentum, and then you'll see a reversion back to the mean. And this really goes for any time frame, but it's pretty clean on the weekly. One thing that you do want to note is that you can see here when we had that happen, we had 1-2 bars of lost momentum, and really on that first one, we started reverting back to the mean. Now it's kind of like a two-piece thing to this, right? So we could either trade sideways when we lose this momentum, or we drop back to the 21. Okay, and typically what will happen is, and we talked about this last week. So first, you'll see the break of the low of the high bar, which we got here. We broke that, kind of retested it, and then ultimately flushed back to the 21 EMA. Okay, so that's the first thing. This is a pretty typical thing to see happen in the market. Is when you get that squeeze, you get that first bar of lost momentum. 2 really confirms it, but then you get that break of the high to low bar. Same thing goes for puts, right? So you can see here, it's not that great of a signal. You can see here, first bar of lost momentum. We broke the high, the low bar. I don't know. So weird. Hold on. There's gaps in that chart, which is not normal. Okay, so we got the break. We've got the first bar of lost momentum kind of continued through, and then we got a second bar. Now, what happened was we got the break of the high-low bar on this candle, and we never saw a new low before reverting back to the mean. And then same thing here. It's pretty similar. You get that break. Here's the bar that makes the low. And then once it closes above, boom, it's kind of over with. So it's kind of a common theme to look for when you're looking at the weekly chart, daily chart, really any chart. It's a pretty useful tool to look at stuff. But so this here was pretty easy, just trading the upside. And that was easy because we had a weekly squeeze and that fired off to the upside. And we've had continued momentum. Now, QQQ could not have gotten closer to breaking this level. So it really couldn't have. So we're going to want to pay attention to this level here, which on QQQ is 433.65. So let's go ahead and update that. And then for SPY, that level is going to be right here. Looks like 504.91. Okay, so we've got those are the kind of the key levels that we need to pay attention to going into this week. Now you can do the same thing with the futures. It's going to be pretty similar. So, but key thing to note, we've got our first warning sign, which is the break or the first momentum bar, and then we've got a second one to confirm it. So my initial thought process is, okay, we can probably see a reversion back to the mean. Now, that's number one, okay? Number two, we can just span down into the lower time frames, right? Friday, we gap down right into the 21 EMA. Here, I'm going to switch back to the futures charts. And you can see here, we're in a squeeze, okay? We dipped down, we almost made it to that 21. On SPY, we actually did, okay? One thing I'm gonna do here is so I can just add these in, so it makes my life easier. This one, RTY. Okay. So next thing on top of that is, okay, first we had the sell-off on Friday. And you can see that was in the NASDAQ as well. One thing you kind of want to pay attention to is we drop down. First, we've got the daily squeeze. Second, we have momentum shifted to the downside here and on the weekly time frame as well. But here we're starting to lose momentum. Now we have had multiple tests of the 21 EMA and we couldn't break this high. And so at this point now we've broke below the 21. If we hold here, I think it's very possible we could head lower. And the weekly time frame, if you look kind of what happened last time, it will make the story a lot more obvious for you. So first thing is you go to the weekly time frame and we go back to here. So you can see here here's our first bar of lost momentum. And then if you go to the daily time frame, what happened is we started to trade sideways. We put in a squeeze here, and then ultimately that squeeze fired short. Now that's just in conjunction with what happened on the higher time frames. Bars of lost momentum. Then you go to the daily time frame, and then eventually we started to roll over with the daily squeeze, kind of helping trigger the weekly time frame, right? Okay, so that's that. And then from there, like the new charts, I appreciate it. Really, I just changed it to white. But so from there, you can see here, while we kind of had this first was a daily squeeze to the downside, another daily squeeze to the downside, another daily squeeze to the downside. And now what's happening is you go to the weekly. You can see here, it was just creating a weekly squeeze. And ultimately, we got our momentum shift and so on and so forth. So this is kind of, we're creating, the reason I'm saying all this is because we're creating a similar pattern as what we did previously. I mean, last time, really. We had the lost bar momentum, and then from there, we traded sideways, got below that 21 EMA, had a squeeze that fired us short, and that's kind of what it looks like the indexes are doing here again, right? We've got a huge gap to fill down below, and we started to head into that on Friday. But yeah, I think there's pretty good potential we could continue to see lower prices. So, that being said, we have to be cautious to the long side. And then on top of that, if we go look at like RTY, which, well, first let's go through this. So RTY is pretty similar. What's happening with that? It looks like at this point, we're not going to get this range break that I was initially looking for. We've just continued to reject. So I can't call for a breakout of that range just yet. It looks like, honestly, we may fire to the downside. As for all the indexes, on Friday, we had a really nice squeeze to the downside. You can see here, we had the test of the 21 and then we flushed. And now we're kind of trading at this support and we'll see if we end up breaking. But I do like our chances that we are going to end up breaking. It's very probable. And we also have to see that we've got this momentum still continuing to the downside on this 4-hour squeeze. So, and then now we can use this and look at the same thing for QQQ. If you go look at these charts, you can see that first a 4-hour squeeze was, or a 30-minute squeeze was triggered to the downside, which ran its course. Okay. And then from there, we had a 1 hour squeeze that fired short as well. We have a 2 hour squeeze that just now fired to the downside. And then now we have a 4 hour squeeze that has yet to fire to the downside. Looks like it's starting to expand to the downside. I think I like the idea of shorting somewhere right in here, this area here, because it is a lot of kind of resistance. I think if we trade up into this range again, I think that this is a great opportunity to look to go short. Now it's going to be a little more difficult because we are running into the Fed meeting this week. So we have to be a little cautious in terms of that. But that's kind of the analysis on this, right? So like I just walked you through all those charts. What's kind of happening is the 30-minute is triggering the 1 hour, which is triggering the 2 hour, which could potentially trigger this 4 hour because we are one dot in. And so we could definitely see some more downside. Now, it's just a matter of, is it going to happen before the Fed meeting? I don't know. We'll have to see. And another thing we want to see is kind of tomorrow will be pretty telling if we have another close below this 21 EMA. And then is SPY going to make it below its 21 EMA? That's another question, right? Because you can see here, we have not broke the 21 EMA. I wouldn't even call this really a break. We had a close below it and then reclaimed it the next day. We haven't had a move below the 21 EMA since back in November. So this market's been pretty much straight up. So it would make sense that we got some sort of a breather. So yeah, that's kind of the analysis on the indexes. If you guys have charts you want me to look at, put those in the chat. I'm going to go over kind of my watch list for now. And then that's kind of what I'm looking for in the indexes. So I'm going to more so trade the indexes a lot more rather than going to other stocks. But I am going to go over some things that I am definitely keeping an eye on. Number one thing I'm probably going to be paying attention to is that this week is oil. Okay. Now, I'm personally looking to get into this. It's a beautiful flag. Like we have a beautiful bull flag here. And basically what I'm doing is I'm looking for us to go test out this 170. And then ultimately go test this resistance here around 180. So this is a monthly chart, so it's going to be a longer term type of thing. But I 100% want to play this and trade this to the upside. This is my number one watch, along with XLE. You can see here, we're in this one currently. We got in a couple weeks ago. We've got a weekly squeeze. We've got shift in momentum. It looks great. Okay. Nothing really more to say about that one. This is the main thing I'm watching. I want to see us head to $100, and I think that we really have the potential to move up into that $100 price target and eventually higher. It's a monthly squeeze, so I think that will easily take us into that $100 price target or really all-time highs. So that's the number one thing that I'm watching. Okay, so that's that. And then from there, similar thing here with USO. These are just different variations of trading the same trade. You can see here the monthly chart here. Now, I don't like this one as much. As you can see, how much selling pressure it has had in the past. Once was a $900 stock, is now 76. So I'm more leaning along the lines of XOP and preferably XLE. Like I said, we have a position in this one, but I would really like some sort of pullback, I would probably say an area I would like to buy this at would be this area, and I'm probably not going to get it. So maybe a dip below 90. I will probably pick some more up, but I'm going to set an alert here to potentially look to pick this up again. Or pick up more, really. So that's the main thing I'm watching this week. We continue through. These are all ones that have daily squeezes. Right now I'm really focused on some weekly squeezes with the weakness in the indexes. So you can see this one. This is probably one of my favorite setups going to this week. HES. Not totally sure what this company is about, but I do like the chart. If you take a look, we are pushing to new all-time highs, and there's the previous highs. We're trading above that. So I do think this one is poised to make a new all-time high. So I'm keeping a close eye on this one. HES, I saw somewhere posted that there's been some good options activity coming into this one. So I do like the idea that we could go retest 170 or go retest this all-time high, ultimately go hit 170. So that's kind of one that's top on my watch list. Another one that could potentially pay out pretty nicely for a longer term investment. I wouldn't call it an investment, more so a trade, just a longer time frame. You can see the monthly time frame on this one here, CF. This one can get pretty volatile when it starts to move. So I do like, I mean, if you look here, weekly squeeze or monthly squeeze pushes pretty strong here, and here as well. So I'm going to look at the opportunity to potentially pick up some calls here. Look for that break of 90. Then we've got the psych level of 100. And I know you all want your money. That's right away. That's why you play 0 data expiration. But unfortunately, not unfortunately, the patient get paid. Some of the weekly squeezes that we played recently, if you guys are in the signals chat and you know these ones, I've kind of been leaning more towards weekly squeezes because they pay a lot more. For example, here, Airbnb, we got in somewhere around here and had a really nice move from 146 to 170. And then the one that was really great was this one here in CLH. We got in on this candle here, kind of just exploded from there. That's the power of the weekly squeeze, right? So I'm going to be paying attention to these more often, looking for these opportunities, because reflecting on like my trading and all that stuff, I've seen that these pay a lot more and they're a lot less work. So I'm paying attention to this weekly and monthly squeeze on CF. Google is also another one. This one isn't ready, but it looks good. I think that we've got a good shot of heading much higher, and going and breaking out to a new all-time high. This is really one of the ones that hasn't started to trade. Well, actually, sorry, that's Amazon. But I like this one as a weekly squeeze. PXD, this is a way to play energy. Really, that's all this is. I like this stock. It's almost at all-time highs, and it's trading out of this big flag. We've got this monthly flag as well. So I'm probably going to look to pick up some of this here soon. And I actually really like an entry near this area right here. So I'm going to set an alert to look to pick some up here. And ultimately, I'm targeting that. I think we could go C300 on this. So, and then COP, similar idea, looking for targeting this for all-time highs. And this is the same as same stock or same. This is energy. Nice consolidation. Chart's beautiful. I actually think I like this one better. I think this one is perfect stock to pick up. And I would say that's really it for my main watch list. I'll kind of take a look at some of the ones you guys are looking at. So NKD. What is this, the Chinese market or Japanese market? I can't remember. Is it Chinese or Japanese? Um, Japan. Okay. I don't know too much about this, but it's in a daily squeeze. I wouldn't try and trade inside of this chop. I would wait for a breakout signal. And because you can kind of see, I actually, now that I'm looking at this chart is not the same, but it's very similar to the S&P 500. You can see 2 bars of lost momentum. You've got a weekly squeeze or daily squeeze. It's actually starting to dip into negative territory in terms of the histogram. So I would think shorter term on this one. Don't try to play it longer term. Just play shorter term price action on this one. Huh. This trades pretty nicely, actually. Cool. Yeah, so I would play shorter term. Let's see. It says the EMAs are not stacked on here, so let's throw them on. I'd wait for this to fire. Well, either wait for this to fire or wait for a clean setup on this to take it back to the upside. But right now, momentum shifting to the upside, so I would kind of pay attention to it that way. And okay, so Amazon. I think this one's a great looking chart. I do want to play this one long. The only problem is that at this point, it really comes down to what the market wants to do, right? You can see here we kind of trade. We're getting near all-time highs. We're so close. So I think that at this point, it's a matter of time before we go test this. Now, if the market rolls over, I think Amazon's probably going to do something pretty similar. So you just have to be aware of that. I like this one long. This is probably one of my favorite long trades in terms of tech. This one, Netflix, and Microsoft. All of these look pretty good. It's just if the market rolls over, then these are going to roll over as well. And you can see here, it's kind of those lost bars of momentum that makes me hesitant on the weekly time frame, showing me that this move might be exhausted. Amazon and then Netflix. Yeah, all these moves are just showing signs of exhaustion. So that's why I'm kind of like cautious per se. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on Amazon. I think it's one of the best looking charts out there right now. And I think we're just so close to all-time highs. I think we're going to do it, but it's just if the market rolls over, then like I said. The indicator, the bottom of my chart, this is something that I coded. Yeah, it's just a chart indicator that I coded. Uber. Okay, so Uber. Now this one, it's going to do whatever the market does, right? This chart looks excellent too. Okay, like here's the thing: you guys are all putting out some pretty good looking charts, like Amazon, Uber. These are outperformers. They look really good. They've gapped up as a result of earnings. All the things, it has all the things, right? What it really comes down to is the market. What is the market going to do? Now, if the market starts to flip over and this was just a monetary bounce, like just a moment in time where SPY wanted to bounce to the 21 EMA and then continue on. But right now, based on what's happened in the past, we can't lean on that it's just a bounce to the 21 and that we're going to get a meaningful move back to the upside. So at least for now. Okay, so that's kind of that. Now, as for Uber, I think it looks good. It's just the problem with the market. Okay, so now this is starting to look like a short signal on the 4 hour time frame, but at the same time, I'm not going to try and short this thing, to be honest. If you're going to short something, short the market. If the market starts to clean up, look to go long Uber. And really, you're going to want to look at XLI, because if XLI can get into a squeeze, start looking good again, then I would look to trade Uber because Uber is in XLI. AMD, and then put in any last ones you want me to look at. Okay, so right now, I think AMD just needs to consolidate for a bit. That's what I'm thinking. I think it's at support. I think we had a nice squeeze. We had a good push to the upside. Now, what it comes to is I think it needs to rest. It needs to form a squeeze again. It needs to kind of consolidate. But if this ends up just trading sideways here and holding this kind of resistance now turn to support, I think that this would be a really easy long long trade. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. All right, guys, is there any last minute ones you want me to go over? Or is that it? All right. I think we're good to go. All right, guys. Thank you guys for joining. If you have questions, feel free to DM me or message me in the chat. And I will get with you guys tomorrow on updates in the morning on the market. All right, guys. Thank you guys for coming.